We're back with another episode of the Too Legit Show, and we've got a very special guest, young and up-and-coming fighter, and it's my job to give a good intro. He's the Breakthrough Fighter of the Year for Cage Warriors 2020, 4-0, 100% finish rate. Nathan Fletcher, how are you?
Very good, mate. How are you? Sorry, someone tried to ring me and I don't know if it come up on my screen, but I'm good. I'm good.
Good. And obviously, great news. You know, you're coming into this year with a lot of momentum. Did you do anything to celebrate here in your awards?
There's not much to do, to be honest. When I found out everyone had gone into a lockdown, so I didn't go out and have a celebratory scran or anything like that. But just winning it was good enough. So I celebrated at home.
Did you manage to do anything for Christmas, New Year's Eve, or just you had to spend it indoors?
Yeah, I was in tier 2 over Christmas, so we were able to go out. I could go out for some meals and that, so it was sound and see a couple of my mates, a bit of my family and that. But it wasn't like every other Christmas, you know what I mean? There's obviously a lot less interaction and that with other people. So, but it was good. I had a bit of downtime. I took like from the fight until the 4th of Jan off, pretty much. Didn't really do anything to do with fighting. So it was a nice little reset, nice little mental reset. I got to eat a load of food, obviously, put a bit of weight back on. So it's been nice. It was a nice 3 or 4 weeks off, just enjoying myself.
Perfect. And before we get into you fighting currently, I want to take it back to the start and ask, how did you get into fighting?
So basically, I started doing MMA when I was about 13, and I don't know what it was, but in school, like I was into footy for a bit at a young age, but I was never any good. So I was a realist. I knew early on, like, I'm not going to be a professional footballer. So I just was fascinated with fighting, and I always wanted to be like, I didn't like the idea that anyone could mess with me and beat me up. So I was always very aware of that, and I always wanted to learn how to fight from about 12 or 13, 14 maybe. And then one of my mates, Kieran, was already doing it at like a small gym in Southport. And I'd started going to a little boxing gym in Ormskirk, which is near mine, and done like a couple of sessions. And then Key basically come up to me and was like, "What's this? You started doing boxing?" I was like, yeah. And he went, "That's shit. You want to get into the MMA? That's what I do." And Key was like the hard knock of the school, you know what I mean? So I said, "Go on then, I'll come down with you and try a bit of this MMA." And then I remember going down on a Tuesday night to just, the Dog Pit it was called. It's like a gym in Ainsdale in Southport. And my mate Kieran just tapped me everywhere. It was like a grappling class. And he just had me off, basically, tapped me everywhere. And I realised then, like, wow, I don't have a clue about fighting. I don't know what I'm doing at all. So that just got me addicted then. From then on, I wanted to learn it all and not get tapped out a load by my mate. So that's how I got into it. And then I was training there for a couple of years, but one of the coaches there, Carl, was a wrestler, and he used to wrestle for like GB and that back in his day. So he was taking us down to Wigan a few nights a week where there was all good wrestling gyms, like Olympic wrestling gyms. So me and my mate Adam would go down with Carl and do loads of freestyle wrestling. And they ended up just getting into that for a couple of years, from like maybe 15 to about 18. I was just like wrestling every day and competing in wrestling. And then at 18, I went to Next Gen. Maybe I was 17, but yeah, 17 or 18, I went to Next Gen then. And that's when I started taking MMA seriously. So it's been about 5 years there at Next Gen, where I've been just doing solely MMA and competing in that.
Nice. So it's fair to say that when you started, you weren't really thinking about if you could have a future career in it.
I was, though, I think. Even though I was actually just training like a small gym in Southport and doing a lot of wrestling, I always had it in the back of my head that like this is what I wanted to do. Like, yeah, I mean, it wasn't like now, obviously, I'm doing it and I'm like professional 4-0. So it's literally within reaching distance of achieving my goal of getting to the UFC. But even back then, like, I always knew that I wanted to do something to do with that. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah.
Fair enough. And obviously, I think if I'm correct, you started out in ICE FC. So talk to me about what it was like fighting there.
Yeah, that was my first fight. And it was good. I fought like quite a tough opponent for my first amateur fight. I think I was 18 when I had my first amateur fight, and he was like 28 or 29, so he was a lot older than me. He was a big fella, and he had like a lot of Thai fights. I remember searching him on YouTube, and he'd come up. Sam O'Connor, his name was. He still fights Thai in that now, and he was from Owen Roddy's gym. Because I remember when I got in the cage, I recognised Owen Roddy in his corner. I was like, "Fucking hell, that's Conor McGregor's pad man." That. So that was my first fight, and it was a tough little test. I think he was obviously a lot more Thai orientated, so he didn't have the grappling. So I managed to just take him down and ended up winning the decision. But yeah, it was good experience. And then I fought on a FCC after that. So I was on ice and then FCC for like my first couple, and then after that I went over to Cage Warriors, and then pretty much the rest of my amateur fights were all on Cage Warriors shows then, or Cage Warriors Academy after that.
So talk to me
Yeah.
about the comparison between the two promotions. Is there anything in ISFC that you sort of preferred fighting under that promotion, or how does it compare?
Cage Warriors is obviously a lot more professional. It's very well run, and like even when you're an amateur, you're in the changing rooms. Graham would come in and like give his talk to encourage everyone to go out there. Like give a little speech that motivates everyone. And then the first time I fought on Cage Warriors was actually in the Echo Arena. On it was either Paddy or Fishy or Molly. One of them was fighting for the belt. So I was on the undercard of that, and that was my third amateur fight, and it was in the Echo. I sold probably like 80 or 90 tickets as well, so all my mates were there. So I think that did me good, like so early on. This is my third fight, and I'm already fighting in an arena. Not many fighters in the UK now at the level I'm at have fought in an arena like that. Do you know what I mean? Especially the amount of people that were there because Paddy was fighting or whatever. Do you know what I mean? So that was really good. And like the event, like I say, the venues, yeah. Well, like in ice, I fought in the Macron Stadium, and that was the same FCC. It was in the Macron as well. And it's not a bad. It's like a good little setup, but compared to the Echo, it's nothing. Do you know what I mean? So I think that done me good, yeah. Getting in like a big arena so early on, just getting me used to that environment.
Would it be fair to say in the sort of the less promotions you could say, so like ISFC, the crowd's a bit more rowdy, a bit of a more of an experience?
Possibly, yeah. I suppose, yeah, because everyone's kind of just stood around the cage. There's like a few seats on like those smaller shows, and then everyone's just stood behind the barriers. So I guess, yeah, you've got like one lad's mates all over there, and his opponent's mates are all over here. It can get a bit rowdy, do you know what I mean? Especially when they're all drinking and that. But yeah, the Cage Warriors shows a bit more professionally run. Saying that though, I remember going to watch a Cage Warriors. I wasn't fighting on it, but a couple of my teammates were, and it kicked off like that. This was it. This wasn't in the Echo. This was in it was in Liverpool. What was it called now? It's like not the exhibition centre, but another one. So it was one of the buildings near the Echo. And I remember it kicking off down the side. These two big juice heads were having it. And then everyone's like that, looking over, trying to see the fight. There's like two professional fighters fighting in the cage. And everyone's looking to see what these juice heads are doing. But yeah, so I suppose any fighting organisation, if they've had enough to drink and that, the crowd can get a bit rowdy, can't they?
I mean, straight after the fight, do you like to have a drink? Do you like to celebrate, or how are you after a fight?
Normally I don't have a drink after my fight. No, I hardly drink anyway, to be honest. Like literally this year, I think I went over to Abu Dhabi with Molly for the UFC fight and Fishy, and I think I had like 2 bottles of Peroni when I was sat around the pool one day, right? So that was the first bevy I had in 2020, and then I had one night over Christmas. I went out and had the drink with me bird and a few of my mates, and like I was just hungover the next day. Felt like shit, and I hardly drank anything. Do you know what I mean? I had about 3 or 4 drinks, but because I just never bevy, it just ripped me off. So after a fight, normally I just go home and eat and chill, and then if I'm going to go out, I'll go out the day after or the weekend after for like a meal and stuff with my close friends and family. But I'm not like a big drinker. And this last one, actually, because it was weird, obviously, when I fought, we were like straight back to the hotel because you had to stay in the COVID bubble that Cage Warriors had created, because obviously there was going to be fights on the Saturday night. So we couldn't like go out into London and then come back to the hotel till the next day. So basically after my fight, I just went right back to my hotel room and just chilled in there. So it was a bit anticlimactic, that last one.
Well, at least you can blame that one on the heat, because it must have been up there. So you can just say it got to your head. So
Say what? Sorry, what got to my head?
Well, you can just say you were in Abu Dhabi, you know, the heat got to your head. The reason why you got more drunk. Perfect excuse. There you go.
I suppose, yeah. That was sunstroke, it was. Sunstroke. So, yeah.
Exactly. And talking of hot weather, I noticed that you did some training with Urijah Faber in, at his gym in California. Talk to me about that experience.
Yeah, that was sick. That was about 2 years ago now. I think, it was 2018, so 2.5 years ago. I went out there, and it was just after my first loss as an amateur, the only fight I've ever lost. And it was a very good confidence boost because I was going out there, and obviously when I started watching MMA, Urijah Faber was like my idol. I used to like all the alpha male guys because they were all small, like bantamweights like myself. So going out there and training with all them, and then obviously at the time I was only an amateur. I think I was like 4-1 as an amateur, but my level wasn't far off all the lads in that gym, and I was rolling with some of their guys and catching them, sparring them, doing well. I even got to roll with Urijah Faber he fucking guillotined me, like, but that's all right because he's very good at them, and so.
Yeah.
But that was a boss experience, and I met some lads out there who were also doing the same thing as me, going out to train, and like I still keep in touch with them today. So yeah, it was a sick experience. I really enjoyed it.
Is there anything that you sort of, obviously you must have learned a lot there, but is there anything that you took away from there that you apply into your training now?
It's a good question. I don't know. I've always been very like professional with how I train. I've always like structured everything. Like when I've got a fight coming up, I like to have all my S&C laid out, all my sparring sessions and that planned. So like I like to be very methodical. And I think even back to be honest, that was it. It was the fight I lost as an amateur. That's what made the change in me, really. Like I was still training hard up until then. But after I got beat, it definitely lit a fire under me, and that kind of made me switch on even more and train even more professionally, even when I was an amateur still. And then going there, wouldn't say it really changed anything, but it just definitely made me believe in myself more because I was going with guys who were in the UFC. I was sparring guys who were like 4-5-0 professionals at the time, and I was still an amateur, and I was holding my own. Do you know what I mean? So it was definitely a good confidence boost just to see that like those people who I've put so much like on a pedestal, like I'm just as good as them. Do you know what I mean? And I'll definitely, yeah, I could be better than them one day. So it was just more than anything, it was a good confidence boost.
Yeah, and talking of the sparring there, they've got a lot of guys like Cody Garbrandt, people like that training there. They used to have TJ Dillashaw. So is the sparring style sort of different to how it is here? Because it looks like they have much more of a, especially at Team Alpha Male, more of an aggressive style.
Yeah, I didn't notice much difference, to be honest. When I went, they sparred once a week, and we done like 4 or 5 rounds in big boxing gloves, which was like more heavier sparring. And then we put the little gloves on and did like 4 or 5 rounds MMA sparring again, but like you focus more on the grappling aspect. Like I don't know. I didn't have it there where anyone was a dickhead and tried to take my head off. I had like good rounds with them all, like hard rounds, but nothing where people were trying to knock me out or anything. Do you know what I mean? So, don't know. Saying I didn't spar Cody though. I know he might be a bit of a hothead, but that was as I went. He was like a week out from fighting Dillashaw again.
Oh wow!
Well, the fact that when I was there, he
2018,
fought. Yeah, it's when he fought Dillashaw. So one of my last nights was when he was fighting. So we all went and watched it at one of the lads' houses there, and he was fighting Dillashaw then. So I didn't get to train with him much, to be honest. But I remember one of his last sessions because we just trained in the gym, and then there was a couple of us left, me and a lad called Sean, who was like an Australian lad who was there, and me other mate Marco, who were met out there, and then Faber was like, just want to come and watch Cody at pads. It's like one of his last sessions, so we were like fucking buzzing, yeah. So I went up and watched him in the cage, and he did like a fight simulation thing where he's like hitting pads, and then he's got Faber coming in and wrestling him, and then he's got like the other Thai coach holding Thai pads from and stuff. So that was quite good to watch, just seeing like a UFC champion caliber fighter, like literally his last session at camp. So that was quite sick. But yeah, in terms of sparring, it was good. I didn't like have any issues with anyone there.
Nice. And obviously this is looking far a bit into the future, but let's say hypothetically you do get into the UFC. Could you see yourself training out there maybe?
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely, there's other places I want to go. So like I probably would go back to Alpha Male because I did really enjoy it when I was there, and I like the way they train. It was good. Don't have any complaints about that. But I want to go to Tiger Muay Thai. I've never been to Thailand, so I definitely like to go out there and train. Especially that seems like a proper growing gym at the minute. Like all the Russians are going out there. Yeah, he's sick. Obviously, like PT Yan and that train out there. Volkanovski goes and does some work there. Brad Riddell and all the city kickboxing lot, they go over there as well. So I'd like to go to Tiger Muay Thai at some point to do some training. Where else? Yeah, Tiger's a big one. I wouldn't mind going to train with Faraz Sahabi, in TriStar.
Oh yeah, I think it's in Toronto.
Yeah, I've always thought he was a sick coach. Yeah, and I've seen like Arnold Allen and that goes up there, doesn't he? And he's a British fighter. So I have to see. But there's loads of good gyms. I probably, just because I've already been to Alpha Male, I'd probably pick to go somewhere else next. You know what I mean? To go and do some training, to experience somewhere else. Like.
Yeah, definitely. America's got lots of good gyms like Jackson Wink. You've got Longo Sarah. But obviously, when you're out in America, I've got to ask: do you prefer their style of breakfast or a fry up?
Definitely a fry up. Yeah, 100%. I'm not really. I don't even think I even had like a big greasy breakfast going out there. What do they have, like waffles and that?
Pancakes, yeah, just too sweet.
Yeah, I'm not really into that. I think that's like a dessert. Me, I wouldn't have that as my breakfast. Exactly. just filling up on sugar straight away. It's not the best way to start your day. I'd definitely rather fry up with about 10 hash browns.
Oh,
I fucking love hash browns, so I could just have one of them and a load of hash browns. It'd be sound.
I love it. And, focusing on this year, obviously we're in lockdown, I think, until March, and who knows what's going to happen. But for you, let's say everything's fine in March. What's your ideal turnaround time?
Sorry. Yeah, my connection went a bit funny then. Sorry. Yeah,
No, so that's what I just, yeah, can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I can hear you. Yeah.
I just wanted to know when's your ideal turnaround time if everything is okay from March?
From March, you mean?
Yeah.
After that? Yeah, so obviously I want to fight in March on that one. And then ideally get like 3 in this year. That'd be nice if I could fight 3 times. That's how I've kind of visualized my year going. So March, maybe like July, August time if they do a show then. Or if not, a September. They normally put shows on in September, so that'd be a good time. And then one towards the end of the year, like a December, November time again. So if I could get 3 in this year, that'd be ideal.
And obviously, the goal is, to get a belt, a championship. But is there, outside of that, maybe, is there any fight in your division that you just really, really want?
Nah, I'm not that arsed, to be honest with you. They give me. I'm just my focus is 100% on getting the Cage Warriors belt and then going to the UFC. I don't have like specific opponents that I've got in mind that I really want to fight him. Whoever Ian, Dean, and Graham want to give me, I'll happily fight any of them. And as long as it like ends up being for that title shot eventually, that's all I'm asked about.
I love to hear it. And final question I've got to know. I do ask a lot of fighters this when they come on the show. Let's say we're 2,000 years back in time. Well, you're in Rome, in the Colosseum. If you're fighting and you have to pick one weapon of choice, what is that and why?
It's interesting. That's a good question. If I'm in Rome, so I'm not very knowledgeable on the Roman weaponry. So could I have something like a pair of nunchucks? Really. So anything but guns.
Yeah, because they're just pretty modern, aren't they? I guess. I don't really know.
I'd have a pair of nunchucks. I reckon I'd be heavy with a pair of nunchucks. I'd be like Nick Diaz in that video where he's going bad with the nunchucks. I'd have a pair of them and I'd get some highlight reel finishes with my nunchucks because you can make it look nice and slick and then bam, knock someone out with a nunchuck. So I'd go for the nunchuck. I'd probably get stabbed up by someone with a sword, but
yeah, that's pretty close combat. That those nunchucks. I don't know how it would fare if someone whips a sword at you.
Just take the sword off them. I'd arm drag them and take the back or something. That's just for show, the nunchucks. I'd end up using me jiu-jitsu anyway.
Perfect. And if there's anything you want to shout out, sponsors, anything, the floor is yours.
Yeah, I'm very lucky. I've got like a brilliant set of sponsors behind me. Finer Filters are a company that have been sponsoring me literally since like my 3rd amateur fight. They helped me out massively, like covering all my training costs and stuff. Then I've got Jack Harper, who is another one of my mates who sponsors me, and he's come on board in like the last year or so. Again, massive help, like funding all my training. I won't be able to do it without those two. And then obviously Macro Chef and me food prep sponsor. So shout out to them for obviously supplying all my food for fight camps. Makes it dead easy just to bang that in the microwave after training, and then I can eat good food straight away, rather than if it was up to me, I might be a bit lazy and go and get like a Subway or a McDonald's or something after training. When I've got them, it's just nice and handy. I can put it in the microwave and eat. So they're my main 3 sponsors. So shout out to all them.
Perfect.